Welcome, everybody. It's Ted Boudreau, and I'm with my very first marketing mentor who I met in 2001, Robert Middleton. Welcome.
Hi.
And I've been following you since 2001, and every Tuesday that email comes in like clockwork for years.
Yeah.
And then last year, you said you were retiring, which kind of caught me by surprise because we've kept in touch and you were coaching a lot of people, do group coaching, and you said enough is enough. You want to kind of talk about that?
Yeah. Well, I've been in business for 39 years. Started my business in San Francisco, then moved to Palo Alto, and then 20 years ago I moved to the Santa Cruz Redwoods and worked virtually. Hardly met anybody in person and worked by phone and then by Zoom for years and years. And I was doing groups and working with people one-on-one. And it just got to the place where I just felt I was done. I worked with so many people and I wrote a book that was a bestseller, made enough money in that book to buy a house, which is kind of lucky.
Awesome.
I think what my life would have been if I hadn't written that book, but so I've had a lot of luck, worked hard, and I I just felt that it was time for a transition and that I was tired of always having to promote myself to get clients and fill programs and my list is getting older. I had a list ultimately of 50,000 people, but it kind of dwindled over the years. People are getting older and retiring and so it was just like, okay, well, I've had a lot of fun. I've made a difference and it's okay to retire.
Yeah.
And so right after retirement, so I said, well, what am I going to do? I didn't really know, but I
Right.
was open. The thing is, I think one of the most important things about retirement, of course, is do you have enough money to retire? And again, I was lucky enough. I have Social Security and I also have good investments that pay me, if I just work off the interest, I won't even deplete my capital. So
Yeah.
again, kind of lucky,
You're
but
in a
I
great
tried a lot
place.
of things and I'm able to retire and I have enough money to live on. I'm not so interested in travel anymore. I don't, we traveled earlier and so don't have a lot of big expenses. And then so it's a few things I wanted to do. And one I wanted to get out of my system is I've been a jazz fan for, my whole life practically
Mhm.
since I was 18 years old. And I collect jazz. I buy a lot of jazz and I listen to a lot of jazz and I create 10 million playlists and listen to everything you can imagine. And I've identified, my very top albums over the last 50 years. So I wrote an so I have an association with All About Jazz, which is the biggest online jazz publication. I said I want to write a series of articles called 72 Jazz Thrillers, which, it's music that thrills me. I listen to it and it just lifts me.
Yeah.
So I wrote 12 articles, six short reviews for six albums each week. And so for 3 months, I did that.
Mhm.
And that was hard,
Deadlines.
really hard. So every week I had to write an article and it took many, many hours to do it. And then, but I was happy with what I'd done.
Hmm.
And after that, I said, okay, I'm done. I don't have to write about jazz anymore. It's like I
Out
got
of
it
my
out of my
system.
system. I've shared what I love. Thousands of people have seen the articles. Okay, so I'm done. And then I said, what? Now, one of the things that I've been doing for a while, even before I retired, I started to use ChatGTP a lot.
Hmm.
And I use it almost every day now. I wake up in the morning with a question, some philosophical thing, or what about this or that, or relationship, whatever. And I type it in, and I'm always amazed at the answers. It's almost what I would have written if I'd had the time,
Hmm.
but more organized. And so, I did or I turn on Zoom and I just talk to Zoom about what, you know, ideas I have and what I want to do and various things.
Like a video diary.
It's sort of like a video diary, right? And some I recorded, some I didn't. Or some I saved, some I didn't. I've never looked at any of them.
Okay.
I've got them. Maybe I'll do something with them
It's like your
soon.
journal. Do you ever go back and read your journal?
Yeah. So, but what emerged is kind of a theme of my life is I want to make a difference. I want to inspire people. I want to uh, connect with people on a level of the highest part of themselves, the best in themselves.
Yeah.
And sort of it emerged, and I said, yeah, I think I'm going to do some interviews. And then I put together a plan, and I used ChatGPT to do the plan. What if I did this, 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 and it helped me refine it.
Hmm.
And before I knew it, I had a decent plan to put it together. And it was very simple. I sent email out to my list and said, I'm starting to do an interview series called Ordinary Visionaries.
Yeah.
And Ordinary Visionaries, it started out with Everyday Visionaries, and I created a logo, and then it morphed into Ordinary Visionaries. An ordinary visionary is somebody who has a vision for whatever,
Hmm.
in their business or their life, and then takes action to make a difference with that vision.
Right.
And that's what you have done in your life. I've interviewed you for Ordinary Visionaries,
Yeah.
and that was a fun interview. And, and now I've interviewed about 35, 40 people, and I'm doing two a week and putting them up on my website and going to be expanding it into YouTube.
Hmm.
And so what I'm doing is really following sort of my blueprint for being an ordinary visionary. It's like you've got an idea, and then you just look at what the next step is. What's the next step? And
Hmm.
I don't have I, you know, if you think of, this is the beginning and this is the end, I don't see the end. I don't know what the end is.
Right.
I don't know how long I'll live, or maybe I'll do this for the next 20 years. I don't know if I live that long,
Right.
or I might not. I could stop tomorrow. But but I'm always looking forward and asking what's next and what's next. And when you keep asking yourself a question like that, what's next emerges. Oh,
Hmm.
yes, send this to people, or send this, or try this, or et cetera, et cetera. So I see big possibilities. But the interesting thing for me is I've always done things that I wanted to do and help people, but I had to generate money from it. And
Right.
this I don't have to generate money from. So that gives me a new freedom to just, you know, talk to interesting people. If nothing else, even if I didn't record it,
Yeah.
even if I didn't put it up, I have some production stuff that I do, not too hard.
Yeah.
It's just really fulfilling. And every time I talk to someone, I get inspired a little about something. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. That's cool.
You're curious. You really always want to
Yeah.
learn more.
So I'm reading more now. Um, so that's sort of the main thing I'm doing. So I do my interviews on Tuesdays and Thursdays,
Hmm.
and Monday I prepare and I prepare the interview I've done the previous week to send out, and then on Wednesday or Thursday I prepare for the one I send out on Friday, and then on Friday I usually goof off, so I have a long. So I'm working, but
Yeah.
usually my work day is like 4 hours long, if that, 3 or 4 hours. And I'm spending a lot of time curating my jazz collection, just
I've
creating.
noticed a shift in you since you retired. And that as you say this, it's kind of coming clear to me. Like when we're in business and you have to make money, everything
Yeah,
you do has that intention. I'm going to make some money somehow through this. So there's kind of an edge to you. It wasn't like you were angry or something, but you were more professional on. Now you're just kind of exploring and you seem to be more relaxed with these interviews I've been watching.
yeah.
And you're just like, hey, I'm doing this. Doesn't work. I don't care.
What's the worst that can happen, right?
Right. I'm not going to go bankrupt.
Yeah, and I'm learning to be a better interviewer. And uh, I watch a fair number of good podcast interviews online and just watch what they do.
Yeah,
And I said I don't want to have something where I have to prepare 5 hours for the damn interview.
right.
So in some cases, I know very little. People have filled out a short profile, and I simply ask people, "How are you an ordinary visionary?" And they tell me.
Yeah.
And then the first question that pops into my mind, I ask that. And then they talk, and then the next question that pops into my mind, I ask that. And sometimes we go deeper into, and I'm just finding that so people are so interesting when you have conversations like this.
Yeah.
How did you get to where you are? What's important to you? What do you put your time into? What's the difference you want to make? All those kinds of things.
Yeah. And your interviews with them isn't for them to get more business or anything. It's more just a casual conversation about
Yeah.
different things.
Yeah, but some people might get business from it because they're in business and they're doing something fascinating, and we're
Yeah.
we're putting the information, links to their website and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I'm I'm really looking at how I can fulfill the life I've always wanted. I've studied personal growth and spirituality and enlightenment and all that stuff my whole life.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to live it.
Hmm. You were
Just
living it before, but it seems to be a whole different level now that you're retired.
yeah, I feel a little more unleashed and a little less pressure for to do things. Yeah, I definitely feel a shift. I'm feeling happier and more energized. Um, something I watch TV, usually a streaming show with my wife every evening, and I want to watch things and read things that uplift me. I started to watch sort of an espionage show on TV other day, and it was so violent. It was really well done. It was so
Mhm.
violent. I said, I don't need that in
Yeah.
my life.
Right.
Before I would have watched the whole thing. I watched two ish, yeah, that's enough. But something I've been doing, which I'm really having fun with, is I'm really, really, really getting deep into Star Trek.
Oh.
So, when I grew up, I was 14 years old when the first Star Trek came out, and I was like totally into it. I watched every episode of, and then I rewatched it over the years because it was in reruns everywhere, right? And
Right.
then the Next Generation, I watched all of that. Then Enterprise came out, and that's one I didn't get into. But then 7 years ago, Discovery came out, Star Trek Discovery. And because of the pandemic, it was 5 seasons. The last season just happened.
Hmm.
And so I watched the last season and I said, I'm going to go back and start watching that from the beginning. And I watch one episode every day.
Yeah.
And so I've got 4 seasons to watch. And I'm going to watch season 5 again. And I'm just getting Star Trek. It's just freaking amazing. And not just in the technology and the graphics and the acting. It's like it's a whole philosophy in action. Every word of dialogue supports that philosophy.
Yeah.
It's like a book of wisdom. It's just
Mhm.
amazing. Now, I don't know about all the old ones, but Discovery is just blowing my mind. Amazing characters, wonderful situations, exciting stuff. But you can miss the underlying message, and
Right.
just the dialogue is extraordinary. So I'm finding that very inspiring.
Yeah.
There's
Do
so
you
much
find that
there.
like when you're reading books too, you're kind of reading them at a different level because you don't have that stress of work and having to make money.
Yeah, yeah, I do.
It's just, yeah, I'm kind of sensing you have this whole relaxed aura about you now. And everything you do, you're kind of like, oh, yeah, I don't know. We have that stress level of work and making money. If that's removed, you enjoy things so much more.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of getting that sense from you. And it's not
Yeah,
intentional. It's just,
I have ideas floating around to do some kind of a class or something in the future, something that people would commit to that I might charge money for, but I would give the money away.
yeah.
I would give it to a local charity or something like that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's one idea. I don't even know if that'll happen.
Right.
I generate a lot of ideas, and then it's like an idea kind of ferments or it doesn't. It's sort of, and that's happened with everything in my life. It's like you come up, like the book that I wrote, the InfoGuru Marketing Manual.
Yeah.
Um, that started with a series of classes I did. I did a series of classes in my office in Palo Alto um, uh, in the mid 90s, or no, late 90s.
Hmm.
And then the night before the class, I wrote up the what I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
So it wasn't heavily prepared, but the night I'm going to talk about this, and I wrote all about it. And so I did 12 sessions, and after that, I said, okay, this is the foundation for a book. I had 12 chapters, and I doubled it to 24 chapters.
Hmm.
And then I edited and got some support and da da da, and then I created my book out of that. So it was, and that wasn't, I'm not even sure that was my I can't even remember if that was my intention to write a book out of that, but one thing sort of evolves out of the next. And then
Yeah.
after doing that book, and my list was growing, it was the early days of the internet, and not a lot of people were doing what I was doing, and my list grew like crazy.
Yeah.
And then, the first thing I sold, I'd had the newsletter for quite some time. Can't remember how long.
Easing, it was called back then.
Easy, yeah, a couple of years. But then I offered the book, and they started to sell like hotcakes. I mean, just like crazy.
Yeah.
And so I sold a ton of those manuals. And then I said, okay, well, what's next? And I said, well, how about doing a class? And I came up with a idea of a 1 year class.
Yeah.
That was after I moved to the mountains.
Hmm.
And I tested some things. One thing I did is I did a class that was I think a 12 session class over 6 months, and I taught everything I knew about marketing. And at the end of the class, nobody had done anything. And I was like, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to just give information.
Right.
So so I did some studying, got some inspiration. I realized I wanted to make it an action group,
Hmm.
that I would teach something and give an exercise, and then people would implement it. Then I would give them feedback.
Yeah.
And then for 5 or 6 years, I did these classes, 1 year classes, until I burned out.
Yeah.
And then I was making a ton of money, and I stepped back and said, "Oh, I don't need to make that much money. That's okay." See,
Right.
a lot of what I see in business is you make money, then you want to make more money, then it has to be more money, and if you don't make more money, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And I went, I want to have a life.
Hmm.
I I want to help people. I want to have fun with it, but I want to have a life. So I cut back and did smaller classes and shorter classes, and did a lot of one-on-one work with people. And
Hmm.
for years and years was just always inventing something new or trying something new. And
So what was the turning point that said, I'm done? What did you plan? Like, this was my last year, I'm going to close at the end of the year, or you just reached a point of no return?
well, I didn't think about it for a long time. I tried to promote a particular class, and I got no bites for it. And I
Yeah.
went, maybe that's a message to me, that with my list and what I'm interested in now and what I want to put out, I did a few introductory webinars. And before, I was filling classes from that. It was that's just not happening.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a message from the universe that it's time for me to wrap up, because I think I would have had to turn myself inside out to do God knows what but it's like this thing about success is can be addictive.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I've succeeded here, but that's not enough. And if I have more, then, well, I already had enough money for retirement.
Yeah.
I was set. I I didn't have a lot. I had everything I needed in life.
You traveled, you had enough travel, you're done with that.
Yeah, my wife hasn't had enough travel, but she's traveling with other people. I'm not saying I'll never travel again. We've gone to Mexico a few years for around the holiday season, which has been great.
Yeah.
But we've gone to Europe, and I don't know, some people these people we just met recently, they went to South America and bought a home in Venezuela and lived there part of the year, you know.
Yeah.
But it's not my dream.
Right. So
And
you don't have a formal plan, you don't have an agenda. You're just kind of taking every day. It's like, "Hey, I'm going to do this
yeah,
today. I'm going to do that."
yeah. Well, the Ordinary Visionaries is a structure that it's nice to have a structure, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a nice structure, and every interview is different, but the process is the same. It's on a certain day of the week, a certain time, 10 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays most times. So I just get it done. And that provides structure. And I like that kind of structure, I feel, because
Hmm.
it's easy to find myself reading news for hours or watching
Yeah.
videos and stuff like that, which is fine. I do some of that. But if I did nothing but that,
Right.
that would not enliven me. That would not be
Yeah.
what I
You're
want.
just finding things you interest you, you're passionate about, and you're doing it. And then when you're
Yeah.
done with that, you'll just kind of move on to whatever's next with no agenda.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't have, the goal of, when can you, what is enough is an
Right.
important question, I think.
Hmm.
What is enough? Well, I have a big house. Well, I'm only going to be happy if I get a bigger house,
Right. Or I need to make
and
more
there's
money, or
not,
I need a new car or whatever.
yeah. I went through an interesting process in that I totaled two of my cars, my wife's car and my car, in a period of 3 months.
Wow.
And I won't get into the details. I came out unscathed, but then we bought one electric car, which we just love,
Yeah.
Nissan Leaf.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great. Um, but evidence shows from what I've read is that at a certain point of sufficiency in terms of you've got your needs taken care of and you eat good food and you have a comfortable home, et cetera, et cetera. After that point, going beyond that point, your happiness really doesn't increase.
Hmm.
You know, but multi-billionaires are not happier than people who have enough.
Right.
And a lot of people in third world countries, as long as they're getting enough water and food and basic sustenance, they're a lot happier than most Americans.
Hmm. Yeah.
YouTube
Less is more.
YouTube and TikTok and all that stuff don't make us happy. They make us addicted.
Right.
And one thing I'm kind of proud of is that I think I'm going to make the Guinness Book of World Records for something as the one person on planet Earth who does not own a cell phone.
That's right. You don't.
It's like I don't want to be that connected all the time, every time I'm out and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I didn't really need it so much. I was at my desk working, I have a phone on my regular phone on my desk.
Yep.
I definitely use an iPad. I have my music on it and stuff like that, and I read the news in the morning on it.
Yeah.
But I don't feel tethered to the internet every minute.
Yeah. That's probably a good thing. Yeah. So you're just enjoying the hell out of life. That's great.
I really am. And I have no idea what my life will be like in the next year or so. I do feel that the thing with the ordinary visionaries will uh, keep going. Now I'm doing a thing once a month, Ordinary Visionaries Live, where people who have been interviewed or interested in it, we have a conversation about some aspect of being an ordinary visionary.
Right.
And that's
You're
kind of fun.
just kind of like you've been doing your whole career. You're testing. Marketing is testing, 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 and you're
Yeah.
just putting stuff out there, testing it. Hey, okay, that didn't work. I'm going to do something else.
Yeah, and whoever shows up is the right person. I mean, I've accepted almost everyone that's said I want to be interviewed.
Yeah.
And some people have been much more accomplished than other people, and some people not as much, but everybody has a rich, deep life.
Yeah.
Anyone who at least considers themselves an ordinary visionary. Yeah, I've had visions, I've taken action, I've made a difference.
Yeah.
Whoever you are, people are people's lives are deeper than we realize.
Yeah.
That we have wants and needs and wishes. We want to be happy, we want to make a difference, we want to be fulfilled.
Mhm.
And so much fulfillment comes from giving and getting out there and offering something and helping people in some way.
Right.
Those are the kind of people I'm interviewing. And so it's really been inspiring that way.
I love it. Awesome. Well, Robert, this has been very enlightening. I just noticed this big shift in you. You probably don't notice it yourself, but it's just you're really enjoying what you're doing. Not that you didn't before, but this is what retirement's all about, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Retirement.
yeah,
Great. Thank
yeah.
you so much,
I
man.
think it's good to retire before you're totally worn out. Some people
Oh yeah.
die a year or two after they retire, and they don't have anything to live for,
Right.
and they sort of feel that maybe their life was kind of meaningless. And now, as interested as I was in marketing, it's not, to teach that and do that just isn't there for me anymore.
Yeah. As I talk to more people at this stage too, their whole routine shifts and everything's different for them. And they start feeling lonely and they just don't have a purpose. So they have to kind of create, what's my purpose? What am I going to do for the next 20 years?
Yeah,
And that's kind of like, okay, you don't have to have a formal plan, but just do what you love doing. If you love helping people or talking to people like this, do it. It's free.
yeah. I mean, find a project,
Yeah.
whatever that project might be. I mean, mine could have been writing about jazz, but it wasn't. I
Yeah.
mean,
You
um,
did it. You wrote those articles, you put a pin in it and went on to the next.
yeah, exactly.
So,
And I like interactive stuff. I like talking to people, and I don't like superficial conversation too much.
mhm.
I don't like small talk too much.
Right. Yeah.
So,
It's more interesting. Well, thank you so much, Robert. How can people learn about maybe be interviewed by you? It's their
well,
website.
you can go to the Ordinary Visionaries page. You can go to actionplan.club. I'm keeping my old website for now. Actionplan.club/OV for Ordinary Visionaries. And you'll see all the interviews right there.
Okay.
And then if you
Great.
think you might be a possible interview, there's a link that you can find out more about that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's great catching up with you.
Thank you.